My daughter called me and she goes, Mommy, they arrested Sheila. She goes, start watching your TV.
A new development in what is a shocker of a story that had eluded Florida investigators for nearly 30 years. But this morning, they're saying they finally cracked the cold case and now know who was behind that frightening clown costume in the murder of a 40-year-old woman.
My name is Mark Anderson, sir. I'm an investigator with the Palm Beach County State Attorney's Office. Yes, sir. Your wife has been placed under arrest for first-degree murder.
Once Sheila was placed under arrest, I approached Mike Warren.
Are you all right, sir?
No, sir, I'm not.
Do you have questions about why your wife would be arrested for first-degree murder?
I don't know what's going on.
We're talking about the murder of Marlene Warren.
Oh, no.
At that point, we still didn't have sufficient information about Michael Warren's knowledge, planning, participation. We weren't able at that time to arrest him.
Oh, my God.
I didn't know if you wanted to tell us anything. You're not under arrest?
I don't even want to talk.
If Mike Warren was concerned about his current wife being arrested for shooting his first wife in the face, he's either a very good actor or it didn't bother him at all. From the very beginning, the detectives thought that Sheila Keene was the killer. We had already planned with Paige McCann being the lead investigator from the sheriff's office that she was going to be the one to attempt to interview Sheila.
So do you go by Sheila or Debbie? Both, okay. Did you ever get your name legally changed to Debbie? No, you just go by both. Okay. Is Debbie your middle name?
It's a nickname.
Oh, nickname. Okay. And are you currently living in the place in Virginia here? And then you guys own a restaurant together still, or did you sell that?
I mean, I don't know. These questions you're asking me.
I'm just trying to get a background.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't want to talk to you.
Okay. Do you want to know what you're charged with?
Yeah.
Okay. You're charged with the first-degree murder, okay, of Marlene Warren. So that's what you were indicted in Palm Beach County, and so that's the actual charge. So
I didn't do it, so that's the end of the story. I'm not talking to you.
Okay. So you don't want to talk. You don't want to give your side of the story as to what happened. Okay.
Paige's goal was to interview Sheila if Sheila was willing to give a statement. She was not. She didn't want to engage in any sort of conversation. She said nothing.
So they'll be in to transport you over to jail, okay?
I'd say it was very rewarding for us to make an arrest 27 and a half years after the murder occurred, and being able to tell the victim's son That was the good part of it for sure.
When they came and told me that they have the person in custody that killed my mother, the emotions and feelings I had bottled up were coming out, and it was just overwhelming. But it was the most exciting time that I had in 3 decades. I needed closure. I needed truth.
Everybody was calling me from the newsroom. Mike, did you hear what's going on? They're arresting Sheila. They're bringing her back to Florida. And I'm like, what? You're saying that you liked Mike and Sheila from the beginning. Why is Sheila the only one who's being arrested?
A major break tonight in a 27-year-old unsolved mystery. Police in Florida arresting a female suspect in what had been called the killer clown case, accused of killing a woman while dressed as a clown, then marrying the victim's husband.
When Mike married Sheila, my jaw hit the floor. I thought, how disrespectful.
Here is the lady that they say is the killer clown, and she is smiling in her mugshot. So we see that in the newsroom, and we're like, oh my God. Really? Smile in the mugshot.
Want any water? Anything? Anything, babe? Yes? Okay.
I want to talk to my husband.
Okay, you want to talk to you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Hey, where are you?
The news and everything's at our house, so I left and came over here. Are you okay?
Oh, yeah, I'm fine.
You know, one way or the other, I'm going to get you out of there.
Oh, I ain't worried about it. I ain't done shit. I ain't worried about it.
I know that. Oh, Palm Beach County, man. I can't believe they're doing this shit.
There was no credible evidence linking Sheila to this murder. You know, I look at it as, almost as a puzzle and jamming pieces into the puzzle that don't fit. And it was conviction at all cost. Miss Keen Warren's case had, nothing to do with guilt or innocence. It was a media case for the state.
As state attorney, I'm the chief prosecutor for the county. It's my decision whether someone gets prosecuted. Sheila Keen Warren thought that she had escaped this. She ran away, she changed her name, changed her hair color, and thought it was just mission accomplished. Well, eventually, the evidence she left behind did her in.
The defendant in this case, Miss Sheila Keen Warren, has been indicted for first-degree murder with a firearm. The potential penalty in this case is life in prison and potentially the death penalty.
The decision was filed as we would be seeking the death penalty. This clearly was a premeditated murder.
We were so outraged by how not only she committed this heinous crime, but that she was able to hide and live her best life, getting away with it for so many years, 27 years. And that to me was a crime on top of a crime.
Hey, baby.
Hey.
Don't cry, baby.
I'm all right. I'm fine.
Well, quit crying.
I'm not.
Yes, sure.
You all right?
Yeah.
I just don't like you in there.
I know.
I feel helpless.
I know. I know.
But I'm doing everything I can on the outside. Everything.
I do not believe in the death penalty. I think it's archaic. The fact that with how little evidence the state had, was comfortable executing this woman was absolutely disgusting. I think the state assumed she knew something, and that by hanging the death penalty over her head, she would provide information.
We're gonna beat it, so you didn't do nothing. Don't worry about nothing. I need you 1,000%.
I need you too. I need you too.
My name's Eric Spakeen. I'm a forensic chemist here in Fort Lauderdale. My work involves the analysis of firearms, flight path of bullets, footwear, tire tracks, any evidence that can be left behind at a crime scene that could get to who did it, how it was done, and where it was done. In this case, I was contacted by the defense to look at the crime scene evidence, specifically relating to possible fibers.
What changed in 2017 that led the state to charge Sheila Keene Warren was forensic evidence. Two things, a fiber and DNA evidence.
Originally, there was evidence collected from the scene that involved a series of balloons and a ribbon tied to those balloons that the killer had delivered to the door and then left behind.
Using the cold case grant money, the analyst at the lab went back to look at the evidence that was left by the clown to see, is there something that got missed? Tangled up in the curly ribbons at the base of the balloons was a fiber.
The fiber not being found in 1990 is a strange twist of events because it had been examined by detectives, it had been examined by local CSI people, it had been examined by fingerprint experts, and yet they don't find the fiber. It's very, very strange and I would say suspicious.
It's my understanding that the fiber wasn't found in 1990 because that close examination with the use of a high-powered microscope wasn't used. It was more of the naked eye examining.
The prosecution said that they had a trifecta. Fibers that were recovered at the crime scene, fibers were recovered from the car, and fibers that were recovered and found in Sheila's apartment. And all this matches the wig that was sold at the Spotlight Capizio, and they could build this narrative so that these pieces of physical evidence would tie it all together nicely, a little bow on top of it.
If an association was made between the fiber from the balloon string and the fiber from the wig, that would create perhaps what you would call a breakthrough or a crack in the case, cracking it open.
But the killer's clown costume, the wig, neither were ever recovered. The wig that they compared it to wasn't the wig the clown was wearing, it was a wig that PBSO bought. So it's just junk science.
As prosecutors, from the moment of Sheila's arrest, we were ready to go forward and prove our case. But there was more of a focus on interviewing additional people because sometimes people slip up and make admissions.
A former employee of Bargain Motors told the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office there was another car involved in the murder of Marlene Warren that you guys don't even know about. But I know where it is. It's in the canal.
So we're recording now, right?
Yeah. And you're not gonna believe what you find in there.
Jerry, take it to the spot.
Palm Beach County Sheriff has sent their divers there.
Okey dokey. Put it on the bottom.
Those canals are deep. They're like 20, 25 foot.
This is 2.5 decades after the murder.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you. Oh, there you go.
A car was found in a canal.
They craned them out and everything.
They're told there's gonna be clown paraphernalia. This could be the piece of evidence that brings all of it together.
There was evidence of Sheila purchasing the clown outfit, but it was never located. So for me, it was more like get that piece of the puzzle and make the justice happen.
What's in this car? A whole lot of nothing.
I don't think they found anything.
anything worthwhile.
It was a big dead end.
This is Detective Bill Williams. This will be an interview with Sheila Keene. You know anybody who has a white LeBaron?
No,
Have you ever been in a white LeBaron?
never.
Have you ever seen LeBarons over at Mike's place?
No.
I'm Tiffany Roy, and I'm a forensic DNA expert here in South Florida. I review cases that are going to be offered as evidence in criminal courts. Florida is a death penalty state. There's a strong propensity toward conviction, and so it's very difficult for criminal defendants here. Some of the most important pieces of evidence in this case were hairs recovered from inside of an abandoned car in a Winn-Dixie parking lot.
So there were 2 hairs found in the car that were of evidentiary value. The first, the FBI indicated that Sheila's DNA was on the hair, but when our expert looked at it, we found out that the majority of the DNA on the hair, 80%, was from a man.
The hair that had the mixed profile on it that was majority male was certainly a concern. And you really want a single source profile from a hair root. If you're trying to find who's the perpetrator, the unknown male would be equally as culpable as the female contributor. And in this instance, they didn't really look very closely into that male profile.
In regard to the second hair, I think it should have been deemed inconclusive. This was mitochondrial DNA. 4% of US Caucasians have the same exact mitochondrial DNA for that second hair, which means could have belonged to 1 in 25 people.
They have 2 hairs, and that's the evidence they have, and neither hair could be conclusively linked to Sheila Keene.
It's just circumstantial evidence, stacked on circumstantial evidence, stacked on circumstantial evidence. But the state doesn't care. The state says, there's a DNA match that Sheila Keene committed this murder.
Okay, we are here on the record. Would you please state your name, sir?
Donald James Carter.
Did you ever see anybody else driving the Chrysler LeBaron? Did everybody in the shop drive it?
No, basically only 4 people who knew the car was there.
Did you ride in the car?
Never.
So the only people that you saw inside the car was Mike Warren and Sheila Keene?
Yes.
Did you ever ask Mike Warren or Sheila Keene about that car?
Mike Warren, he says, no idea. If she did it, I don't know nothing about it.
I'm sure if you talk to any of the other investigators involved in the case, the most frustrating bang your head against the wall part of this case is that we were unable to charge Michael Warren.
We are often able to successfully prosecute the person that arranges the crime. They're not physically present, but they're the one that puts it together. So Michael Warren remained an active suspect in the case.
Another investigator and I went up to Virginia several months after the arrest took place. Strange things happen when you're investigating murder cases. Is maybe we would get lucky and find somebody that either Mike or Debbie mentioned something about the murder back in 1990. We did not get that lucky. But when Sheila was in prison, I remember interviewing a young woman. She told us that Mike fancied her. The Warren residence needed to be cleaned, and Mike would pay her to clean it. And she said that when she went there, Mike came into the bedroom and guided her to the bed and told her that he wanted her in a sexual way. And this was just a week after his wife had been arrested for murder. To me, that reflected on his character or his lack of character.
What did you believe about Betty's attitude towards Mike?
I know she went through his phones before, like I know that they had issues with cheating before. He's that type of man. He always wants more and more and more and wants his cake and to eat it too, type thing. And I think she knows that, but she thought that she could have him on a leash.
When I came to Florida for the trial, I figured it was going to be maybe a few months, a year tops. I was living in Iowa at the time, but I moved here and the trial was taking longer than we expected and they couldn't give us an answer. I got to go to a trial by myself with no family. I was on my own.
Joey is alone. He's an island, and that must feel so isolating. For reporters, we're all on the edge of our seat, and every little development, we're like, oh my God. But you see Joey, and this isn't a show for him. That was his mom.
I had to come here for a trial that took 6 years. Through the process, I lost everything. I couldn't even support myself. I had to become homeless. All the way through, it was nothing but an uphill battle of trying to overcome every obstacle that come my way. But I knew I had to stand for my mother.
This is being recorded now, okay?
Okay.
Can I get your full name, sir?
Yes, Jeffrey Libby.
Okay, Mr. Libby, why don't you fill me in with what you heard?
When you get high-profile cases, you get jailhouse snitches.
A year after the murder actually occurred, a prisoner in Maine had called the authorities and said, look, I got information on this murder.
Mr. Ed Barr said that he was hired to hit me and kill a woman at her home in Wellington, dressed as a clown in broad daylight. Ed stated that he was hired by a guy that ran Bargain Motors in West Palm.
This is Detective Bill Williams of the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. It's being an interview with Jeffrey Libby in Maine State Prison up in Thomaston, Maine.
In 1991, Detective Bill Williams flew to Maine, and they spoke to Jeffrey Libby, who had information about Marlene Warren's death, which was so telling how credible this information was. They got a lot of leads, and they didn't fly all over the country for all these leads.
When did you first sit down and actually discuss with you this case in South Florida about the clown?
8/27, 8/28.
Ed Barr was a career criminal who we know without question was in Palm Beach County at the time of Marlene Warren's death.
Basically what he told me was that this guy had offered him a substantial amount to kill his wife. He said that the car that was used was from Bargain Motors and that it was lent to him by the same guy that hired him.
Story goes, this guy, Ed Barr, who's incarcerated in New England, tells a cellmate, craziest thing I've ever done is kill a guy's wife in Florida.
He stated that in broad daylight, he dressed up as a clown, went up to this residence where this woman was living, knocked on the door, and when she opened the door, he pointed a gun to her face and shot her in the face.
It wasn't given a lot of serious consideration. It seemed that detectives were very dismissive of it.
Sometimes inmates mouth off for cred or to get, a reputation for being a bad guy, And then sometimes the inmate who supposedly hears it has the incentive to gain some kind of a benefit in their own sentence. You have to follow up on these tips, but it was clear that he was making up most of what he had to say.
The person who shot Marlene Warren was a professional. Just based on how the murder was, committed and how the person slowly and calmly walked away. It was definitely a professional.
Marlene came to me one time and she asked my ex-husband and I how we would know if somebody was putting a hit out on her. And my husband, he said, "Are you afraid of somebody?" And she said, "Yeah, I just have this uneasy feeling like I'm being stalked."
Did she ever make any comments to you that she thought maybe her husband was after her or out to get her or anything?
At one point, she said, "Diane, do you think Mike could really have me killed?" And I said, "Well, what are you talking about?" She said, I don't trust him in any way, shape, or form anymore. She said, "One of these days, I think he's going to put a contract on me."
She was right. Somebody wanted her dead.
Before a criminal case goes to trial, we have the pre-trial hearings. It's almost a blueprint for how the case is going to look from both sides, from the prosecution and the defense. For the prosecution, that's this evidence must be included because this is integral to the case. And for the defense, it's you got to toss this evidence out. So I start covering some of these pre-trial hearings. They are passionate arguments from brilliant attorneys who have a lot invested in this. These are like gladiators in a courtroom. And Sheila comes to court for that.
Sheila was very confident in the evidence, very confident in her innocence. And, she was ready to go.
She basically sat in silence and showed no emotion or anything. And Michael Warren never came to court. And I'm sure he probably was a little afraid to come to court because he might be next.
In the pretrial hearings, the defense wanted the testimony of the clerks from the Spotlight Capezio to be inadmissible for a number of reasons. These are the employees who say that they sold a clown costume and clown makeup to a woman shortly before the murder.
We called the witnesses from Spotlight Capezio. We had court hearings and they testified. The ladies positively identified Sheila Keene as the woman that had come to the door to buy the outfit.
For the defense, that photo evidence and the identification of Sheila in that photo evidence is going to be a big problem.
Back in 1990, they showed the photo array to the two women from the costume store. One of the women said, "Most like," and pointed to Sheila. And the other one wavered and pointed to another woman and said, "She also looks like the person I saw." So it wasn't a definitive identification. The state in no way can prove that the costume bought at Spotlight was the costume bought by the murderer. They never found a clown costume, and not one of the 4 eyewitnesses to Marlene Warren's shooting described a costume that matched the costume that was purchased from Spotlight.
What do you remember about the color of the costume?
One side was a pink and the other side was like an orange and gold.
Deborah Small described the costume that she sold as being yellow-orange on one side and a candy pink color on the other side. This does not match a single description given by one of the 4 eyewitnesses to the crime.
The defense is still picking apart everything that the prosecution says they have on Sheila. They are dissecting it, especially the eyewitness accounts from people in the home when this occurred. Joey and his friends, Wendell, Mindy, and Jeannie.
Okay, this guy in the clown suit, you're pretty sure it was a man?
He didn't have breasts. He looked like he was a little bit built.
It's definitely a male, though. It wasn't a female.
You saw this guy standing at, or guy or girl, we don't know that.
Girl.
Clown outfit. This person standing at the door, right? How tall would you say?
Well, he's got the height of Wendell. And Wendell, like, he's about 6 foot.
You had 4 eyewitnesses identify the shooter as over 6 feet tall. 3 of 4 eyewitnesses identify the shooter as a man.
Sheila is short. She's not 6 feet. They could have had her stand up in court. And you could ask the jury, does that look like a 6-foot man to you? No. So that was going to be a big problem.
As we chipped away at the case, based on the evidence, it was just impossible that Sheila Keene Warren committed this crime.
The defense is trying to get every piece of physical evidence that they say that they have on Sheila tossed out. They're going to hang their hat on an audit that was done of how evidence was stored in the sheriff's office, where bags containing evidence are in bad condition.
In Sheila's case, there were open bags of evidence, torn bags of evidence. I mean, it was a complete disaster.
It's defense 101 when you have a cold case to argue that the evidence is spoiled, that it's contaminated. It's true that the evidence bags came open and some of the evidence was exposed to the air. And so it did give some life to the defense's arguments that the evidence should be suppressed.
My understanding is the fiber evidence was the main piece of evidence that allowed an arrest or a warrant for arrest to happen in the case. When you have a lack of attention to detail in ripped bags where it's been opened at least 3 or 4 times by different people, the fact that you could get a cross-contamination of a tiny little fiber is obvious. That could explain how the balloon fiber got on there.
This is potentially key pieces of evidence that's going to mean someone goes to jail for the rest of their life or is found not guilty. So that is very strong argument. The evidence on this needs to have been preserved perfectly, and it was the opposite of that. The defense has a field day.
My prosecutors came to me and said that there are pending motions before the court that could suppress our key evidence. The case was starting to implode.
The defense wanted some important pieces of evidence excluded from trial, saying that items had been contaminated.
The problem for us really was the death of the main police officer who collected the evidence. So because that breaks the chain of custody, we were at risk of losing everything.
Based on the way the arguments had gone in court, there was a real possibility that the fiber evidence was going to be excluded.
The case looks like it could result in the ultimate injustice, an acquittal. I just couldn't in good conscience let that happen. We needed to make a deal.
The state's very concerned about their ability to prove a case, or they're concerned they proceed with trial. You know, our client might be acquitted. You know, they knew what they were doing when they gave this incredible sweetheart deal. It was a way to save face.
Throughout my career with the state attorney's office, it's always been our office policy to include victims' families in your resolutions.
Out of nowhere, they call me and say, this is the state's attorney's office and there's a plea on the table. They tell me what it is and I tell them I don't like it. It's not enough.
Victims are important to us. Their families are important to us, and the goal is to come to a mutually agreeable resolution.
This is an incredibly hard decision that he is faced with when they say, we think that this plea bargain is the best way forward. What do you think, Joey?
They said he needed an answer right away, that day. I was lost. You know, I didn't know what to do, how to do it.
He wants to do right by his mom and the memory of Marlene, but he also has to do what's right for him as he wants to move forward with his life. He doesn't have anybody to consult with. I can't imagine.
When I received the call from the state's attorney's office, I pondered on it for 3 days. I didn't want that agreement. But then I see their case is falling apart. It was a mess. I had to just take the plea because I just wanted a conviction, just like them at the end of the day.
Joey Aarons was very understanding, and ultimately he was infinitely grateful that there would be closure and that there would be a guilty plea. Nothing short of, I admit I did it.
I just knew. They didn't say it. I just knew. We would lose if we went to trial. She would walk. I was not going to have that.
I get a call. Mike, I think you got to get over to the courthouse right now. Something's going on with Sheila. I run into the courtroom and they're bringing Sheila out and I'm thinking, is she going to take a plea? Is she really going to take a plea?
One of the most bizarre and closely followed mysteries in South Florida. The suspect, Sheila Keene Warren, has taken a plea deal offered by prosecutors. We learned today there will be no trial, and this was all unexpected.
Ms. Keene Warren, the defendant herein, will agree to withdraw her previously entered plea of not guilty and her plea of guilty of second-degree murder. And are you in full agreement with all those terms?
Yes, sir.
We really began to discuss the resolution of the case, to go back and forth about what's acceptable, went back and forth, and ultimately all the parties decided that 12 years in the Department of Corrections would be doable and accepted by Joey Aarons.
I wanted a plea of murder, and although this was a first-degree premeditated murder case, I would be okay with second-degree murder because it's still murder. I wanted her, Sheila Keene Warren, to have that scarlet letter of M on her chest for the rest of her life.
Sheila Keene was willing to plead guilty and accept a 12-year sentence in the Department of Corrections, and she pled to second-degree murder with a firearm.
Do you still wish to plead guilty and have me impose the sentence as outlined in the plea agreement?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I was shocked, gobsmacked. How can you go from a death penalty case to now we're gonna let her do a plea for second-degree murder and there's gonna be time served?
In Florida, the only legal sentence for first-degree murder is either a sentence of life in prison or a sentence of death. For it to be a legal sentence, she had to plead to the next lesser included crime, which was second-degree murder.
The state looks for a conviction. They got one, but it's a shitty one. That's not closure for the family or nothing. That's a joke.
Is the son available?
He is, Judge. Mr. Aarons, do you wish to make any type of statement?
The only thing I want to say is, all through this trial, I didn't see any remorse.
Do you have anything else that you wanted to say? This is your opportunity if you'd like, sir.
God be with her.
Thank you, sir. Good luck to you all. Good luck to you, Ms. Keene-Warren.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Good evening, everybody. The defense team tells me that Sheila Keene-Warren did not enter this plea because she did it. They say she just didn't want to take her chances at a jury trial.
Sheila did not want to plead guilty because, you know, she's innocent and maintains her innocence. But with good behavior, she was looking at spending about 16 more months in prison. It's hard to say no. She wanted to go home.
After all these years of denying it, the murderer finally fessed up and admitted what we all knew, that she killed this poor innocent victim, Marlene Warren.
She has nothing to prove to anyone. You know, she's just happy that her friends and her loved ones, you know she's innocent and she'll be going home soon.
Nobody has said that she's innocent but the defense attorney. Sheila, in her own words, told the judge she was guilty and that she was pleading guilty because she was guilty. And she said that under oath.
Sheila Keene-Warren wanted Marlene Warren's life, and she had it for a while. She was able to accomplish it for a while, but now time is up. And if we have enough evidence, we would certainly pursue it against Michael Warren. The case is never totally closed.
In my eyes, ain't justice. Sheila's getting out. I think Joe should think the same way. I wouldn't want the killer of my mother getting out. And then I'm sure she's going to go live the rich life. And then she's going to end up with everything that Marlene got. That woman worked hard for everything she ended up with, or what she had. And it was all just taken away.
I'm glad it's over with for Joey's sake, because that boy has gone through hell. But to me, no. I think the courts failed him and Marlene. I go to her gravesite, and I don't smoke anymore, but I'll take coffee and pour a little bit on the ground and talk to her. Marlene, I miss you. I love you. You know, everything's done now. You can finally rest in peace.
I left Florida and I moved to the mountains. The nature has just grounded me and it feels great to be at peace. My thoughts on Sheila Keene getting out is just overwhelming. The one person that did not pay for this crime is Michael Warren. He didn't do 1 day of jail. But really, I have to let go. I have to let it go. My mom was a beautiful person. She was my world. There was a bit of justice for my mother because we did get the killer. I know she would be very proud of me today because I'm proud of myself. You know, if I'm in a situation, I always think, what would Mom do? My son is at the age that I was at when I lost my mother. I want my son to grow up knowing his grandmother still lives within me, and I want him to see that through me.